When did making plans get this complicated? It's time to streamline with WhatsApp, the secure messaging app that brings the whole group together. Use polls to settle dinner plans. Send event invites and pin messages so no one forgets Mom's 60th. And never miss a meme or milestone. All protected with end-to-end encryption. It's time for WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone. Learn more at whatsapp.com.
Hello, and welcome to It's a Fandom Thing. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and each week I'm joined by a panel of guests to discuss all things fandom and pop culture, primarily from a female perspective. You'll find everything from fanfic, to cosplay, to Schitt's Creek, to Supernatural, and everything in between. So put on your favorite piece of fandom merch, set aside that fanfic that you're writing about your OTP, and sit back and enjoy this week's episode. Hey everyone, just a quick heads up about this episode because I forgot to give trigger warnings, and this episode definitely needs trigger warnings. So huge trigger warning for drug abuse, death related to drug abuse, to drug overdose. That's like the biggest one. We get kind of deep and heavy in parts of this episode. You'll know when because I will give the trigger warnings again, but just wanted to give a heads up on this one. Once again, please check the show notes for some hotlines, some suicide hotlines, and the Trevor Project hotlines. Please reach out for some help if you need help, and take care of yourself. And thank you so much for listening. Hello, and welcome to It's a Fandom Thing. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and on this episode, we are continuing our celebration of grunge music with a look at the band Alice in Chains. And I don't know why my voice keeps cracking. I swear I went through puberty years ago, so it's just cracking. I don't know. Maybe it's because we're talking about stuff back when I was really going through puberty. So it's like
that must be it.
Yeah,
it's like let's get in the zone.
But joining me to talk about Alice in Chains is the host of Okay Real Quick podcast, Carla. Hello, Carla.
Hello, Erin. Hello, people.
And also joining me, returning from last week's episode, and she'll also be on next week's episode discussing Pearl Jam, Sara. Hello, Sara.
Hello.
Thank you both so much for joining me. Like listeners may know, this has been a journey for me because grunge was never like my first pick. Most people that I knew listened to it. It just was not anything I listened to as intently or as intensely as I did other stuff. But it's been interesting listening to these bands now as an adult and gaining a deeper appreciation for them. And Nirvana so far has been the one that has really hit me the hardest emotionally. And this one, I would say Alice in Chains so far, I mean, I haven't finished prep for Pearl Jam, is the one that hit me the second hardest. And I will try and explain a little bit of why when we get to that part talking about the impact of the music, but it's just been interesting to me. And another interesting thing to me has been, and a sad thing, is how, next week will be the first week where we don't talk about a lead singer dying. It's just like, it's really heartbreaking to me. It's really so sad, having to give trigger warnings for all these episodes because of that stuff. And it just makes me sad. So that's just another side note. It's been emotional preparing for these episodes, I have to say. But it's also been a lot of fun. But I'm going to give you some band information, some generic little just overview of the band. I get most of my information from Wikipedia, just to let everybody know. So if I make a mistake, please let me know. And then I'll give you some trigger warnings as well. So Alice in Chains, which is often abbreviated A, small I, C, which I don't know. Did both of you know that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Only because that's how I would write it in shorthand. I didn't know that it was a thing.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was a thing.
Yeah, supposedly it's a thing. Is an American rock band formed in, guess where, everybody?
Oh my God. It totally has to be somewhere in California, somewhere sunny and bright. I feel like it's like Orange County flavored.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
LA, definitely LA.
Bakersfield. In Seattle. I know you couldn't get that.
What?
I know.
So
right?
shocked. So surprising.
In 1987 was when they were formed. See, my voice keeps cracking. I don't know what's going on.
Have you been secretly like screaming out these lyrics? Is that what's going on? You're just like behind the scenes back there, just stay.
She's been channeling Layne Staley.
That's what it is.
Oh gosh. I'm sorry.
The voice.
No, I know. Since 2006, the band's lineup has comprised of vocalist, guitarist Jerry Cantrell and William Duvall, bassist Mike Innes, and drummer Sean Kinney. Vocalist Layne Staley and bassist Mike Starr are former members of the band. They both, of course, have passed away. The band took its name from Staley's previous band, Alice in Chains, with an in. Alice in, in instead of in. Sorry. I don't know why.
Like Guns N' Roses. Not like In and Out.
Often associated with grunge music, really? Alice in Chains' sound and style is rooted in heavy metal. The band is known for its distinctive vocal style, which often included the harmonized vocals between Staley and Cantrell, and later Cantrell and Duvall. Since its formation, Alice in Chains has released 6 studio albums, 3 EPs, 3 live albums, 4 compilations, 2 DVDs, 43 music videos, and 32 singles. The band has sold more than 30 million records worldwide and over 20 million records in the U.S. alone. It has had 18 top 10 songs on Billboard's mainstream rock tracks chart and 5 number 1 hits, and has received 11 Grammy Award nominations. The band was ranked number 34 on VH1's 100 Greatest Artists of Hard Rock special and as the 15th greatest live band by Hit Parader. Have either of you seen them live?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay. So what I first want to know, Carla, is what song or album was it that turned you into an Alice in Chains fan?
Definitely Man in the Box. And here's a brief story. I used to have this friend, and I say used to have this friend because it's a very like high school thing of falling out and whatever. So I used to have this friend, and she was very into like this kind of music, but not like in a cool way like I was. She was a poser, but
the Temu version.
I'm taking you fully back to the 90s. I'm taking you for the full experience. So like this total poser. I used to spend a lot of time with her and we would listen to a lot of music together. And she was really into Candlebox. And you're like, Candlebox? But this is a show about Alice in Chains. I will get there, my friend. What happened is that she was very into Candlebox, and I was like really trying to like them because she was my friend. And I was like, oh, if she sees something in them, there must be something there. And I just tried and tried. And I was like, I can't quite get there. But she had this mixtape because friends, remember mixtapes? Because we're cool and old. I mean, just cool. And we did mixtapes. One of her mixtapes happened to have Man in the Box next to a Candlebox song. Cannot tell you a single Candlebox song, but instantly I was hooked in with Man in the Box. That song, I mean, it still blows me away when I listen to it. It has like this hook, and it's catchy, but it's not, it doesn't like beg for your attention. It just exists and then invites you to exist with it. And yeah, I started existing with Alice in Chains and obviously became cooler than that girl who liked Candlebox.
Next week, we'll be talking about Candlebox.
Carla will
I have a thing or two to say about them. I'm kidding.
I can't even remember. I know the band name, of course, but I don't remember a song either. Do you, Sara?
Can't. I know I remember them, but I couldn't name a song.
I'm going to have to look that up here.
Yeah. I would have to, because I do remember them, but I would have to look it up because I can't name one song.
Yeah.
I can picture the poster she had in her room. That's it.
And I know I have capitalized the I and in and all these things in here, and I know it's embarrassing. So I will correct that when we release it. It will be small I. So, Sarah.
It was also Man in the Box for me as well. And I was working as a waitress I was working at after school program, the elementary school just down the street from me. And there was another girl, same age. So I was, maybe 16 at the time. And we were, we would talk about music and stuff. And she was like really into like alternative. And I was, I was the metalhead, still am. But she was telling me she's like, oh, you got to check out this band, Alice in Chains. I'm like, okay, So she played Man in the Box for me. And I was like, wow. Okay, yeah, I need to listen to more of this. Because they were grunge, but I think of the big, the top 4 grunge bands, they had the most metal background to me.
Yeah.
Just between like Jerry Cantrell's riffs, the lyrics. I mean, they just had more of that metal background. And I think that's what drew me into them. And I was just kind of blown away by Man in the Box, and the video for it was just, my 16-year-old self thought it was just brutal and absolutely amazing. And they are still, well, we'll get to that later when we talk about lasting impressions. But yeah, that was definitely the first one. And then, I think I had pretty much all the albums after that up until Layne passed away.
Yeah, like I said, this is more me getting into them now as a 23-year-old. We're just going to go with it, everybody. So the reason I say that they are like second next to Nirvana is the emotion in some of the lyrics and the way they are sung is so raw, like really raw, like as raw as Kurt Cobain singing, frankly, is the way I view it. And it's like basically like, I don't know, someone like being like, here, this is just like me, like this is going to be really gross and a visual here, but like me just bloody and raw, and here's my like heart that I've just ripped from my chest, and I'm just going to show it to you. And it's like bruised and battered and stuff. And I think that's why I like them. I know that sounds like, wow, that sounds very pleasant, but
but it is.
No,
but that's why.
I totally get it. I feel the same way.
And that's the kind of music that attracts me. That's why I love Nine Inch Nails. That's why, I feel that way with some Depeche Mode. I feel that way with some New Order. I feel that way with, there's a lot of stuff that's like that. I actually think Guns N' Roses, in a way, too, there is some of that emotion in some of their songs. I'm only thinking that because you mentioned Guns N' Roses. But so and I'm not going to necessarily name a song because I think it's just kind of like, actually, I'll name the album that I would say would be the Jar of Flies album from 1994. That is the one that I think that I've listened to the most through this preparation. Every song I'm going to list for my top 3 is from that album. And that to me is like, I think you could probably find so many different meanings to just that title of Jar of Flies and kind of what that can insinuate, and almost like rotting, and then like, I don't know, like heat also for some reason, and just the rawness of it. So that's, I think, why they have impacted me the most next to Nirvana. Yeah. So it's been an interesting journey. It's been emotional, actually. I've cried a lot listening to this band. And I didn't really cry listening to Nirvana too much, but I've cried a lot listening to this band preparing for this. So here is everybody's favorite question. The 3 favorite songs. I should do an intro thing for this.
You should.
Yes.
But make it like really like, dark metal so that people know that it's, it's going to be cutting into your heart as you try to find these songs.
No, I like that.
I am a very chill
Um,
person.
So, Carla, what are 3 of your favorite songs?
Thank you for asking, Erin. I am happy to tell you. And I totally did not have a hard time figuring this out at all. Oh, well, Man in the Box, because for obvious reasons, it really is a song that, from the first guitar chunky thing that it does at the very beginning, it's you're paying attention to it. Especially around that time, there was that kind of quote unquote battle between real metal and hair metal.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like Alice in Chains is like slightly a marriage of the two because it has all of those metal sensibilities, but it's also more palatable than metal might be to the average listener.
Mhm.
It's more, I guess, consumer friendly. It's more appealing to the masses. And that's not saying that the masses suck. Only that one person who, like Candlebox, so much sucked.
Hey, now we're covering it.
Anyway.
I'm sorry to like dump on your favorite band, Erin, but yeah, they had this way of like marrying so many styles, and there's also like elements of, I want to say folk, like a little bit there, because they had, especially with like songs like Rooster, there is that with the lyrics more than the sound itself, but that there's that telling a story about average people. So you have all of those distinct different things, and they bring it together in a way that just makes sense. It just clicks. And I mean, no offense to the new configuration of the band, but that first lineup really had the formula. They really had it. It was magical what they would do with the blend of the voices with the music, because it all feels like one part of the same thing. Every single bit of it flows in a very special way. And, bands like Nirvana and Soundgarden, they were, yeah, everybody starts somewhere, but they were even at the beginning, I think, more polished, I think is the word, than Alice in Chains. When Alice in Chains just felt raw from the beginning. It just felt like a very visceral thing where you're just somehow hearing something running through somebody's veins. And that's pretty much the only way that I can put it. And that for me started with Man in the Box. And that's why it's like my go-to song when I feel like listening to them. The other song, I've already mentioned, Rooster. The story in it, you're learning so much about like this character. Like it's painting a very vivid picture of a family, of a dynamic. I think it's a heartbreaking song because it's almost like, coming to terms with a difficult relationship, but also there's a lot of love and a lot of admiration, but also there's a lot of hurt and a lot of sorrow in the song. It wasn't one of my favorite of theirs at first because I didn't get it. I think it's like one of those songs that you have to listen to when you're older and you've lived a little bit more. And then you're like, okay, I can feel more of this song. So it's one of those songs that I always liked, but I didn't come to love until later. And now it's like one of my favorites. And then Shame in You, which is, it's not one of the songs that is like the most played and that people, talk about the most when they talk about Alice in Chains, I think. But what I love about that song is that there's something in the structure of it. And just from like a musical angle, the way that the voices lock together, it's almost, okay, this is going to sound weird. It's like a Ziploc. You have the yellow and the blue and they make green, and the voices make green, and it's a gorgeous green, and they snap together, and you're like, I don't want to separate them because individually I know that these are different people. They each bring something special to this, but it's really that magic that happens when their voices are blended, because I don't know any other band that has something like this throughout most of their songs. Most of their songs, especially in like the early years, there's like that seamless thing where it's like, it's almost like one person having two voices at the same time. And, other bands, other groups, they blend stuff well and it sounds nice, but it doesn't feel quite as seamless. It doesn't feel quite as, what's the word? Like enmeshed, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that, especially in this song, like there are some sections of it where there's also that, it's like, if there's a third strand of the Ziploc, it's there, especially in that song, I think. And yeah, I mean, there are other songs too, I guess, but
Yeah. So Sarah, you're 3.
I am going to piggyback on what Carla said about the meshing, and I'm not going in order here, but Heaven Beside You is another one, is one of my favorites, and that's another one where Layne and Jerry's vocals, they just come together in this absolutely amazing way, and I think that's why I love that song so much. And Rooster has always been one of my favorites, but I don't think it was one that I truly understood until I was in my 20s, until I was a little bit older, because I figure I was, I don't know, maybe 17, 18, because that one's on Dirt, I think. I think that's the album it's on. But I didn't really quite understand it until it was older. I was older. And it is such a heartbreaking song. And I think I picked up on the meaning and the story behind it, because it's written, Jerry Cantrell wrote it about his father and what he went through. And it's the perspective is through his father's experiences. And I think he wrote it as therapy. I was reading an article that at the time he was homeless, and he ended up staying with Chris Cornell from Soundgarden. And he was talking about how he's just in this, little guest room that they had. And he was thinking about his father the one night, and the lyrics just sort of poured out of him. And it's such an amazingly written and performed song. It's one of those songs, like I get chill. I literally get chills when I hear it. And then my third one would be Down in a Hole, which up until recently, I found out it had a different meaning than what I thought it had. Apparently, Jerry Cantrell wrote it about who he called the love of his life and their relationship. When I first heard it as an angsty teen, it, hit me more as, being down in a hole and not being able to get out, and dealing with mental illness and things like that. But apparently that's not what it was about. But I think, I guess in a way it was. But I think, also songs are open to interpretation.
Yeah.
And what one person gets out of it and what it means to that person, it may not be what the songwriter originally was trying to convey. But I don't think that, it's like poetry. Or art, any type of art in general has different meanings to different people. But yeah, this was a hard one because there's so many amazing songs. So it was really difficult to pick just 3. And I hate this question.
I know everybody hates
Next week is going to be Pearl Jam is even going to be more difficult. Oh, I'm already like, I got to make a list.
I know everybody hates me, but I have to limit it.
We love you. We do love you, Erin. We love you.
So like I said, all of mine are from one album, Jar of Flies, and I'll mention that one last. So the first one would be No Excuses. This is more just like, it's not in line with the other two as far as like, I didn't listen to it as much, like I didn't rewind it as much as the others, but of the ones that I picked, this is the heaviest of like the music part of it. The other ones I picked aren't as heavy sounding, I guess is the best way to describe it, especially my number one pick. But I just think this one is a fun one. I almost picked Man in a Box and I almost picked Rooster, but I just kind of went, no, I'll go a little bit different. Plus, since both of you mentioned those, I was like, okay, see, that's the other bonus when you go last, when you're the host. But so that's my first one. And then the other one is, the second one I'll mention is Swing on This, because that's a little bit different sound to it too. I like that one, kind of makes me think of, this may sound really weird, but like dancing, but like dancing for fun. To me, it's really fun. It's like a little bit lighter, doesn't make me cry. I don't know. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's long song. It's longer than some of these other ones, but it has this fun beat to it that it's almost like, here, we've put you through hell through this whole album, and here's a little treat and reward, if that makes sense. That's kind of the way it feels when you listen to it, is it's like this way of like ending it of like, it's okay. We've made it. We will be fine. And I just mean that music wise, not necessarily lyrically, but just by the music in it. So, and then lastly, and this one, I have listened to this song so many times, and that's the song Nutshell. And that song, there's something about it that really, like, I don't know, digs into me and into my soul and into my heart. And it really is painful, but I have listened to it repeatedly. There is something so raw about that song. And yes, it's a slower song. It's all of that, but there is something so incredibly vulnerable about that song. And it really hurts. And I mean that in a good way, but it's like really painful. And it's one of the ones, like I've said in the past couple of episodes, like if I listen to a song and I can picture like a movie, a trailer to a film, that is the one that would be for the trailer of the film. So I don't know, there's something just very profound about that song for me. And it's one that sometimes when I'm listening to it, I'm looking at the lyrics at the same time. And some of the lyrics in that song are really hard to listen to and read when you're reading them. And I realized I forgot to give trigger warnings.
Oops.
Whoopsies.
So I'm going to have to record those and put those in earlier. But this is your reminder, Erin, put in those trigger warnings. So yeah, so I'll be giving trigger warnings again once we get to another part in here when we're talking about death. So we are going to throw to a break. And when we come back, we are going to talk about the lasting impact of Alice in Chains on music and on yourself. So we'll be right back.
So good, so good, so good.
New fall arrivals are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Get ready to save big with up to 60% off Vince, Kurt Geiger London, and more.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
Because there's always something new.
Join the Nordy Club at Nordstrom Rack to unlock exclusive discounts on your favorite brands. Shop new arrivals first and more. Plus, get an extra 5% off every Rack purchase with a Nordstrom credit card. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
This episode is brought to you by White Claw Surge. Nice choice hitting up this podcast. No surprises. You're all about diving into tastes everyone in the room can enjoy. Just like White Claw Surge. It's for celebrating those moments when connections have been made and the night's just begun. With bold flavors and 8% alcohol by volume, unleash the night. Unleash White Claw Surge. Please drink responsibly. Hard seltzer with flavors. 8% alcohol by volume. White Claw Seltzer Works. Chicago, Illinois.
Okay, so Carla, as much as you feel comfortable with the personal part, but what do you think Alice in Chains' lasting impact has been on music and then on yourself?
Musically, they have inspired so many groups after them. And also, starting at their roots, one of the things that I find so interesting about music history is the way that groups will form out of the leftovers of other groups, and then they'll become better, and they'll become better musicians, and they'll become better lyricists, and then they move on to another group, and then they take those skills with them, and they share them with people who they end up creating even more amazing art. And that's something with Alice in Chains that I think is so interesting. They, like you mentioned, the connection with Chris Cornell. There was a super group that comprised Chris Cornell and
Rage Against the Machine.
No.
Temple of the Dog.
I don't think it was on either. Well, it doesn't matter. I know. I'm like, you could name like 5 different bands in that era, and they all probably have something to do with each other.
Yeah.
But that's the cool thing is that, all of these people are feeding off of each other, and we're the benefactors of that. Like we end up on the receiving end of so much great art because of that sharing of ideas. And then once, the music landscape moves on, the people who grew up listening to them are taking from that and building their own legacies on top of it. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that without that kind of environment, without being able to share with and of each other like that, artistry kind of dries up a little bit. And that's one thing that's, kind of sad about the digital world, is that you can share music in infinitely easier ways, but I think it's really like the presence and being together and just jamming and like just the vibrations of the music itself that I really think help art. And I feel like in that particular era was just blessed with great art. But they influenced bands like Breaking Benjamin and Avenged Sevenfold and Bush and Creed. And you can definitely hear a lot of those influences in those bands. And then those are bands that, left their own legacies. And so, again, it's just like amazing to me how art feeds art. You also have the sadder, influence of, when we lose an artist, however it is that we lose them. I think this is partly why people feel so attached to artists, and why it's so hard for us when we hear, so-and-so has passed away, because even though we may never have met them, and like Sara and I have never even gotten to go to one of their shows, but it's like, it's a part of us. It's like, it's like losing a member of a larger family. And it's somebody who, in a selfish way, you're losing out on the history and the art that they could have made down the line. So like I did with Nirvana, I always wonder what could have happened with Alice in Chains down the line. Could it be that, that's it? They would have broken up and it would have been over anyway. But then there could have been another band started, because when people love to create, like they find ways to do it. So there is like that sense of personal loss of what could have been. And then beyond that, like the influence of Alice in Chains on me, for me, as far as grunge bands, this was my band. This was like my favorite grunge band. And I think it is because of that lyricism, because they have, as writers, as songwriters, they have a way with words and of bringing feelings to life in a way that is tangible. Like you can really like feel the texture of their sorrow, and you can feel the brush of fabric of their pain. And there's a lot of pain in Alice in Chains music. And I think, at the age of which I was listening to it, there was a lot of pain and a lot of angst and a lot of, teenage stuff going on. But there's also just a genuine connection of humanity of, we all go through stuff. And there's, I'm not saying that that's all that there is to their music, because certainly there's a lot more to it than that. They have, there's a lot of love and a lot of celebration in it as well. But for me, the songs that stuck with me the most were always the sadder ones, because, I'm an angst monster. Like if I'm going to read fic, if it doesn't make me cry, I don't want to read it. What is fluff? Give me some fluff after you've hurt me. Like, make it worth it. Make me earn it.
I'm the same way.
I love that this is a band that I can cry to, and that I feel comforted by their music. I feel accompanied by it. I don't feel like it adds to my sorrow. I don't feel like it necessarily subtracts from it either. I feel like it's sitting with me and letting me feel these things and letting me feel them deeply. And again, just that marriage of rock in the form that it's metal and it's hair metal and it's alternative metal and it's, the towards, the end of the Layne era, there's also like a bit of emo and a bit of new metal blossoming in there. There is so much in that band. Even as they grow and even as they refine their sound and their lyricism, they are still, I think, like the most honest feelings of any band for me. Your mileage may vary, but for me, it always felt like this was the most raw and honest of the grunge bands. I love getting lost in their music. And there are times when, that's exactly what I need. Like, I need to just listen to Alice in Chains for a bit and just feel my feelings and then go and listen to Bon Jovi. And,
There's your fluff.
Yeah, exactly. That is the payoff to my angs.
You can still feel your feelings with the Bon Jovi, though.
Of course you can.
You can.
They're just slightly happier feelings unless you're listening to the album These Days, which is a great album, by the way.
Yeah, go back and listen to our episode discussing Bon Jovi.
Jovi, yes.
Not just because I'm in it, by the way.
Not the only reason.
Not the only reason.
Oh, wait, I think I'm in that one too.
Yeah, I think so, because the Jersey thing. It's
Yes.
kinda,
I
like
have
when
to.
we eventually talk about Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's, every child born in New Jersey gets a copy of Born to Run on vinyl.
It comes with the birth.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's your birth certificate and
here's
Born to Run on vinyl. Yeah.
So Sarah.
Lasting impression on music. Oh, most definitely. I feel, although I do have to disagree with Carla on Avenged Sevenfold, because I hear more Metallica and Guns N' Roses in them than I do Alice in Chains, but it's there, especially the earlier stuff. Latest album, not so much. But anyway, yeah, they definitely, if you're interested, unfortunately, I don't know if it's streaming anywhere for free. I bought it because but there's a great I think a 9-part documentary called Metal Evolution. It's on Amazon, but you have to buy it. And it goes from, like the blues all the way up to, I forget what the last episode was, and it covers everything in between. But they did do an episode on grunge and talking about the bands that grunge had an influence on. So it's still, I see a lot of, I know we're talking about Alice in Chains, but I see a lot of influence from them on a lot of new metal bands, such as like Korn, Disturbed, specifically Godsmack, because Godsmack started as an Alice in Chains tribute band, and that is where they got their name from, was their song Godsmack. And you can hear a lot, not so much now, but their first couple albums, I can definitely hear that Alice in Chains influence. And then when I found out they were an Alice in Chains tribute band, I'm like, oh, now I get it. That makes sense. And Godsmack is one of my favorite bands. But for me personally, their lasting impression, they're still one of the bands. And like Carla was saying, like if I'm in that state of mind where I'm like, okay, I just need to be angry and pissed off and sad and, just feeling all those angsty emotions, Alice in Chains is one of my go-to bands. I have a playlist of my I'm pissed off at the world kind of music, and Alice in Chains is definitely on there. And that, we're talking about music that's almost 30 years old. I don't like that.
I know. I'm like,
no, we can edit that out. It's not 30 years old. I refuse to believe it.
Well, I'm only 23. So.
Oh, so this was before your time.
Yes, this was before my
way before your time. But it still does have that lasting impression on me today that I can go back and listen to those songs and feel what I was feeling at that time and remember what I was feeling at that time. And I think I think that's one of the great things about music is it can help us process those emotions and those feelings. And it can take us back to times where, things were great or things were not so great. And we can work through that. And that's just a general thing about music, not Alice in Chains specifically, but of the top 4 grunge bands, the ones that we've been talking about, I think Alice in Chains was commercially the most underrated. I don't think, they were popular, but I don't think they got the airtime that Nirvana, Soundgarden, and Pearl Jam got. I don't think they got that attention that the other 3 got. And of the 4, I think they were my favorite as well. That's all from me.
Candlebox, I think, got more attention.
Right? I think they did.
But none of us remember Candlebox.
So there you go.
Except for all the people out there yelling at us right now.
How do you not know what Candlebox is? I know who they are. I just couldn't tell you the name of a song.
It's the same people that are listening to our Christmas music episode.
Like Candlebox and Christmas music. And Nickelback.
Oh, God.
And not when they were grungy either.
No.
Nickelback.
Is there another post-grunge one?
Yeah. We will not be talking about Nickelback.
Oh, thank God.
Well, this
We
is how
talk
you
about
remind me of what
Nickelback.
I really am.
We could talk about both Nickelback and Candlebox. So I did want to mention, Sarah, I don't know if you know about this, but Hulu has a new 8-part documentary coming out that is a heavy metal docuseries called Into the Void. The premieres on September 22nd. Did you know about this?
I did not know about that. Thank you.
I kept meaning to tell you because I saw the trailer and then I was somewhere where I couldn't tell you. And so now you know.
Oh, I will definitely be watching that.
Yeah, and they're going to talk about different things like satanic panic and all that crap too.
Sweet.
But yeah, I just didn't know if you knew about that. So now you do now. So I don't have much to add to this personally, but I do want to just say again that every time we do these music episodes, it really reiterates to me. I'm sure this will not happen when we cover Poison, but it reiterates to me how impactful music can be and how personal it is and how of all the art forms, it is the most human in a way, if that makes sense. It's the most real. It is the one that can really change you in so many different ways. And it's such an amazing gift music is. And I just really realized that. And that's why I think our music episodes are our most popular ones, setting aside Christmas music. Which, I'm sorry, I keep harping on it because a listen is a listen and I should not, complain about any listen. I'm not complaining about it. It was a fun episode to do. It just still cracks me up that it's our most popular episode. But all our other ones that are music, like Journey and Lady Gaga and a bunch of other ones and like The Doors and Depeche Mode and everything, what those bands have in common and what that music has in common, no matter the genre, is the impact it has on the listener and the journey it takes the listener on, and how you can be in a certain headspace and then a song might come on and it instantly changes that headspace, or it helps that headspace, or it could even put you in a darker headspace, frankly. But music is just an incredibly powerful medium. And that's why, I could, if I had to choose just one art form that I would only be able to ever enjoy, it would be music. So I just want to thank you both for sharing that, because it really, even Candlebox, I'm sure, does this to people too.
I'm sure it does.
I'm sure Nickelback does too.
Yes.
I'm still trying to think of the other two to go along with that. I'm sure there are some out there.
There's gotta
that
be.
will cover some year.
I'm thinking My Chemical Romance.
Well, don't say that in front of Moth.
No, God, no, don't say that in front of Moth at all.
Moth,
Please, no.
I'm gonna have to edit in here. Moth, you can stop listening for 2 minutes if you end up listening.
Hey, Moth, don't you want some water right now? Like, wouldn't it be good to just like, step away from the phone for a moment?
And I'm like, they would not be happy.
No.
I was gonna say Imagine Dragons is what I was gonna say.
Oh. Yeah.
Although I did love that documentary when it first came out, that Believer documentary, because it was interesting because of the Mormon faith, his Mormon faith, and then him re-examining that with, thing like that. Anyway, it's an interesting documentary. It really is. So we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we are going to talk about the deaths of Layne, Stanley, and bassist Mike Starr. So we'll be right back.
Routine, adjective, used to describe an individual whose spirit is unyielding, unconstrained, one who navigates life on their own terms, effortlessly. They do not always show up on time, but when they arrive, you notice an individual confident in their contradictions. They know the rules but behave as if they do not exist. Routine, the new fragrance by Miu Miu, defined by you.
Okay, so trigger warning. And I am going to put the links again to the suicide hotlines to 988 and then also the Trevor Project, like I mentioned, because of how awful things are in the United States. Some of those hotlines in the United States, at least, they have cut certain things. So that's why I want to include the Trevor Project in there as well. But trigger warning for drug addiction and drug abuse. And I'm going to very briefly, because if you look up, just a warning, if you look up Layne Stanley's death, in Wikipedia, it goes into great detail of how long it took to find him. And I just want people to be aware of that because it's very hard to read. So I'm not going to read that part. I promise you I won't read that part. But if you go and look that up, just beware of that. So just to let you know. So I'm going to first, Layne died on April 5th, 2002. The autopsy and toxicology report revealed that he died from a mixture of heroin and cocaine, which is also known as a speedball. And once again, warning when you look that up because he wasn't found for like 2 weeks. So just a warning. So that they go into that. And then for Mike Starr, and Mike Starr also, and someday we might talk about these shows that were also on VH1, because we're going to be talking about VH1 of Love shows in December, which is decidedly lighter in some ways. But VH1 also did these shows where it was basically like, let's take celebrities at their worst time in life and gawk at them in a fishbowl, such as Celebrity Rehab with Dr. fucking Drew. And
oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, Mike Starr was on Celebrity Rehab. So I don't know if both of you knew that, but we will at some point talk about that show. There was also there was one about people who were in relationships and all of those kind of, fishbowl type shows, gross reality shows. So Mike Starr died on March 8th, 2011. And they suspected that Starr died of a drug overdose. A public memorial was held for Starr at Experience Music Project in Seattle on March 20th, 2011. So, sorry, it's hard reading some of these, I have to say. So I'm sorry to both of my panelists, too, if it was hard to hear any of that. And once again, please check the show notes if you need any help. So, Carla, how did these two deaths, impact you and or music as much as you feel comfortable sharing?
Okay, to start with music, like I said, anytime that you lose an artist, you're losing a piece of humanity. And that's such a hard thing to think about because it's, again, that thought of oh my God, I'm being so selfish, of thinking, what else could they have brought into my life? But it's just the way that humans impact each other. When somebody dies who has touched your life in a positive way, it's really hard to come to terms with the fact that that person is no longer going to be doing that for you. And I think that as much as it might feel selfish, it's just a natural part of being human. Humans seek connectedness. And for some of us, when it comes to artists that we never encounter in real life, the connection we get to them is through their art. And that it's hard to let go of the idea that that's what they put out is all you're getting forever. And I think with Mike Starr, I didn't follow him as much, Yes, I know he's a very important part of the band, and don't come at me, but nobody talks about Tico Torres from Bon Jovi. They talk about Richie and about John, and not to be mean, but people have their biases, the people that they really, kind of lean towards. And it's not to say that, it's not sad that Mike Starr died. It's just it didn't hit the same way as when Layne died for me. And that's just a matter of, who you gravitate towards in art. But yeah, both of them made such huge contributions to the musical landscape and to shaping the Seattle grunge scene, and inevitably that ripple effect that reaches all parts of music and just the development of rock as a genre. Okay, imagine there's running water and you put your finger down into a pool of running water. There's that hole there, but there's water rushing around it. And if you lift your finger, that hole gets filled up. And it's not to say that the hole never happened. That, that loss did happen. But music continues, art continues, life continues. And I think that that's an important thing to remember too, is that part of their legacy, part of the legacy of their death is what fills in those gaps. Whether it be the band reforming with new members, whether it be people forming tribute bands, people, making little nooks of memorabilia, or even using that as an inspiration to live their life better. There's always something that comes from that. So there's the legacy in that sense. And like I said, for me, Layne's death was harder. And it's the kind of thing where, the band hadn't been doing much of anything for a while, and they had broken up in the past. So you always think, they're going to get back together. It's that thing of, when bands break up, you're always thinking, well, everybody always ends up getting back together. There's always a reunion at some point, even for the bands that say, I'm never going to, share a stage with this person again. You're always kind of hoping, maybe could you make an exception just for me? So I think there was that hope towards the end, even at the end, that oh, yeah, I guess that's not going to happen. And because, again, for me, the voices and their blending was so important to me, the idea that that particular blend wasn't going to be there anymore was a hard thing to accept. And this is, going back to the Ziploc thing, it's separating the two colors. And they are individually important. But when you have something like that and you kind of hang on so strongly to a particular aspect of music, it's just a difficult thing to think, okay, well, that's not, going to be there anymore. But there's also the comfort of being able to go back and listen and just celebrate their having existed by going back and revisiting what it is that made you fall in love with them in the first place. And there is so much for us to go back to with Layne and with Mike. They left an amazing catalog of music. They left, because this is a band that their feelings were it was an absolutely exposed, raw vein that's out there and throbbing, and it will forever, because their music is just, you can't erase it. It wasn't in vain. Their lives were not in vain. Their art was not in vain. And that's kind of the thing that I cling to, is that they weren't always maybe in the best place in their minds and in their spirits, but by sharing all of that, all of their struggles and all of their triumphs with us, we kind of share in that, and it's part of our soul. And that's something that it's a legacy that music leaves in a way that other forms of art doesn't. And it's not to put down other forms of art. I just think that music in particular has a very special way of affecting us.
Yeah. Sarah?
I mean, I vaguely remember hearing the news about Layne. I didn't realize that it took 2 weeks to find him. That's just awful. Absolutely awful. And with Mike, I actually don't remember hearing about his death, because at that point I wasn't really following much. But, I think, I mean, just briefly, because I think Carla covered that very, very well, where I really don't have much to add to it, other than just to agree. I mean, with musicians, we do have that. We do have a somewhat personal connection with their music, with them. And I'm pretty sure we've talked about this before. I mean, there is, when you lose someone like that you've had such a deep, deep connection with their music, and their music has spoken to you and helped you through good times, bad times, whatever, there is a certain sense of loss when they pass. And I think we do go through a little period of mourning, even though we didn't personally know them, just because of how their music made us feel. Yeah, I mean, that's really all I have to add to that, which isn't much.
No, it is. Thank you. Thank you both. For me personally, I don't even recall either of these deaths, but that I think is because it wasn't like music that I was as tuned into. But what I do want to add is, we've talked a lot about how impactful music can be on us, and the like getting out our own emotions and the anger and the angst and everything like that. And I think what happens sometimes to people that are inside that music, that create that music, that sing that music, that play that music, I think they are so in it that sometimes what they're feeling already, and that angst that they're already feeling, and when you are in the throes of addiction especially, and from what I've heard, heroin is one of the hardest to ever fully quit. And so when you're in the throes of addiction and you're singing this music and it's so raw and you're having to be raw all the time, I'm not at all like blaming the music. I'm just saying I think sometimes when people are already very sensitive, it can make it even harder on them and harder to deal with and to cope, to find healthy coping mechanisms for that. And I think that's kind of what has happened when we're covering these bands and these deaths that have happened, is I think you had very sensitive artists who got so into that I think there might have been, and this is just me, I don't know this for sure, I don't know this, but I think sometimes it might have been hard for them to separate themselves from that they were creating, if that makes sense. Which again is not at all to say that you shouldn't be making this music, you shouldn't be listening to this music. I'm just saying I think that's what can happen sometimes with musicians, because we're talking about how raw it is, how raw music is, and just imagine you're the one creating that music. So you're feeling it in an even rawer way. You're feeling it in an even deeper way than we are. So I think sometimes that can make it harder to go through regular life and live a quote unquote normal life. And especially if you're famous and all that other stuff. And also, in reality, a lot of people in music aren't really rich. A lot of people in music, like, they'll have a lot of money for a little bit and then it's gone. Or a lot of people higher up, and the people that are at the record companies and everything like that are the ones that are making the money. So then you also have that struggle to survive as well. So yeah, and I also think just with fame sometimes comes these other dark sides to it. Honestly, I think with the reality television part with the Mike Starr thing, I do think, and again, I'm not laying any blame on that show. I'm just saying, I think that there is this thing of like wanting to watch people in pain that are celebrities because then we can feel better about ourselves. And that was kind of what that show was watching people at their lowest and, having this doctor who is basically getting fame from people's lowest of the lows. And I don't know if that was very helpful for these people. And once again, I'm not laying blame because I don't want anybody to come after us, but I'm just saying I don't think that helped much. So that was heavy, but
Yeah.
Is everybody okay? I just want to ask if everybody's okay first before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, but we are going to turn to something fun now.
It's fluff time.
It's fluff time.
It's fluff time.
So it is time to play 6 Degrees of Finn Whitrock. And like we mentioned on our Soundgarden episode, there is one movie in particular that you can definitely use for this one. I don't know if both of my panelists played, and I don't know if they both used this movie. We shall find out. So, Carla, did you play 6 Degrees of Finn Whitrock?
I absolutely did, but I'm going to let Sara go first.
Okay.
Just because I think that she has let's do this face.
I absolutely did not play because I would be using the same one that I used last week.
That is okay. That is okay because I completely have it covered.
Sweet.
I'm only thing I'm doing is I am going to my notes that I have made long before today.
Like 2 weeks ago, right?
2 weeks ago, man. Like I've been on the ball like you wouldn't believe. It's amazing. You'd be shocked. And I'm going to connect. Okay. So Arnold Schwarzenegger was in the movie. The movie has a name, by the way. It's called
good.
Last Action Hero.
Oh, God.
Right? So he was in Last Action Hero, a movie that I absolutely watched and loved so much. 100%. My favorite movie of all time. And he was in that movie with an actor. The actor's name was Sir Ian McKellen.
Mm-hmm.
And Sir Ian McKellen was in, and the band played on with B.D. Wong, who was in The Normal Heart with Finn Whitrock. And I, just for my brain, this...
Where does Alice in Chains come into play?
Oh, because they were on the soundtrack for Last Action Hero.
Oh, okay. Ian McKellen
Yes.
was in Last Action Hero? I don't remember that. Of course,
he absolutely was.
I tried to block most of that movie from my memory.
I can corroborate that from my own recollection of having watched that movie many, many times, definitely more than 0.
It eclipses Night at the Roxbury and Eurovision for you. It's like
everything else just lies under the shadow of that colossus of a film.
Oh man, that was hilarious. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm happy to help.
I used the movie Singles, which can
Right,
also...
that they were actually on. Yes.
So shocked.
I forgot all about that.
Did you really? Oh my God.
Which someday we will cover this movie. It has been on polls before and it loses every poll. So, which kind of shocks me, but we will be covering it at some point, maybe next year. But this can also be used next week. But like I said, Sara, there's something else you can use too next week. So in Singles was also Matt Dillon, who lately there's been like this video going around about how Matt Dillon hasn't aged at all or something. I don't know if anybody's seen that, but
I haven't seen that now.
It is true, since I just recently saw The Outsiders on the big screen, which that was quite a beautiful experience. I wish you could have been there, Carla. because I know how much you loved that movie. So I wish you could have been there. And they gave the best things at the movie party for that one. But also I said also in singles is Matt Dillon. I already said that part, Erin. Matt Dillon was in Asteroid City with Bryan Cranston, who was in The Stand, the newer Stand television series, with Hamish Linklater, who has been in quite a few things with Finn. But I selected Downtown Alley. So there you go.
Great.
Erin, it's amazing how you and I both did our homework.
No, I'm sorry.
We're so cool.
Unlike Sara.
Such a disappointment. I will have one
At least
for
you
next
remembered
week,
that they were in singles.
which is what I used last week for Soundgarden. So I would have been using singles again this week. And I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Because you have integrity, Sara. That's what it comes down to.
Okay.
You have
We'll go.
integrity.
I have integrity. I will do next week.
Okay. And next year, we will be talking about The Last Action Hero and Candlebox.
And Nickelback.
And Nickelback. It's going to be a rockin' year next year. Okay, well, thank you both so much for joining me. Thank you, Carla and Sara. We're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode. And Carla from OK Real Quick, tell everybody about your podcast and where they can find you.
I am happy to tell you where you can find OK Real Quick, which I have resumed posting episodes, and I have an exciting, for me, lineup in the near future. And you can find all of that in the previous episodes, wherever you found this podcast. You can also find social media for OK Real Quick by looking up at OK Real Quick Pod, everywhere and anywhere. I'm not everywhere and everywhere, so if you find me, you should follow me, because it's a precious, rare gift. Similarly, my art, and my musings are found in places. Look for at Carla Temis, or my website, carlatemis.com. That's CarlaTemis.com. Also, if you want to find me, like, for realsies, just go to the Discord server for It's a Fan and Thing Pod, because I'm there a lot.
Oh, I was like, no, we don't. Don't try and find Carla for realsies.
No. Oh, God, no. Not that kind of for realsies. Like, the fake for realsies that is acceptable and legal.
I know. I was like,
And ethical and moral and kind.
I was like,
Yeah,
don't
no.
encourage people.
No, God, no. Strike all of that. Erase. You like TikToks? I put a lot of them there.
Yeah, go to Discord, our Discord server. Yeah, the links in the show notes are on our website, but
And nowhere else.
yeah, nowhere else.
I don't actually exist, so don't try to look for me.
Who's AI?
Oh, next year, that's going to be part of our wonderful roster is embracing AI.
No,
Totally.
No, we will
Thank
not
you,
be doing
Erin.
that.
Is there anything else I can help you with? Can I help you put together a resume? A paper? A letter?
Blenders.
Oh,
Would you
yeah,
like to find a
blenders.
blender? Is there anything I can help you research?
Okay, well, thank you, Carla. Sara?
I swear I'm not AI. You can find me on Instagram at NateCanMom. That's NateCammom. Or on TikTok at Sara A. Barnick. That's SaraABarnaik. And if you love sourdough bread and you're in the Denver area, you can visit my Facebook page for the Sourdough, that's SaraDough, baking company. Place an order. It's fabulous. Not that I'm trying to, plug my business or anything.
No, go ahead.
Or if you're just like looking at pictures of bread, check it out. Everyone's got their thing. I don't know what your
that's
thing
your
is.
kink.
So.
You should start putting an OnlyFans for your bread.
OnlyFans for sourdough bread. I'm sure there is someone out there.
Yes. All they want is to look at the sourdough, just like, ooh, look at the starter. Fermenty.
Or like with the bagels, look at that hole.
Well, they all end up looking like buttholes anyway, so.
You're going to get an influx of the most interesting followers.
Should do that as like a social experiment.
Turn that dough slower. Okay, well,
anyway.
On that note, Fergie the dog. That's a horrible segue into Fergie. But no, Sarah's sourdough. Sarah's sourdough is really tasty. There's even some spicy ones.
Yes.
Jalapeno.
Got a little spice.
Got a kick. And your mouth will be on fire. So anyway, Fergie the dog. You can follow her on TikTok at Schroeder and Fergs. That's SCHROEDERANDFERGS. It's long, but it's worth it. To find all our past episodes, we've done a ton of music episodes. So if you want to listen to any of those, including, yes, you can listen to our Christmas music episode, because I'm sure all the Alice in Chains fans are like, I have got to listen to some Christmas music episode. There could be crossover. But if you want to find all of our past episodes, links to our social media, including our Discord that Carla mentioned earlier, and also links to our Patreon, go to our website. It's a fandomthingpod.com. And if you do want to support the show, consider becoming a Patreon supporter. For as little as $3 a month, you get bonus content. You get episodes a day early. You get ad-free content, so no capitalism there. And you also occasionally win prizes, like for our upcoming horror trivia event, which will be happening in 2 weeks from the time you're listening to this. Holy crap. You can choose your contestants. You get their points for whoever wins. You don't have to know anything about trivia. And then you can potentially win some great prizes that are being donated. Carla is donating some great prizes. I've got some great prizes from Jen from My Streaming Bubble, my podcast Brain Twin. Moth is donating some stuff. I mean, Moth probably turned this episode off by now after the slander.
My Chemical Romance.
But there are quite a few great prizes being donated. I'll be donating some dim sum.
We've got so off the rails at this point.
I know. But you can find that on our website. It's a fandomthingpod.com under the Support Us tab, or the link is in the show notes. And next week, I cannot believe this, but we are wrapping up Music Month. Holy crap. I feel like we just started this. I swear we just started this a week ago, but we're wrapping it up, and Sara will be returning to discuss a band that I have seen in concert.
And I haven't. And I'm really sad about it. But at least they're still touring.
I saw them before they hit it big. They opened for Red Hot Chili Peppers along with also Smashing Pumpkins. And so it was before either one of those bands were really big. I mean, I'm only 23, but still, go with me. And then Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I have to say that was the last time I really ever listened to Red Hot Chili Peppers and liked them. After I saw them in concert, I stopped listening to them. I hate Red Hot Chili Peppers. We'll be covering that with Candlebox.
Oh, there you go.
But anyway, we will be talking about Pearl Jam, Sara and I. So that should be a fun conversation.
Yeah.
And I won't have to be talking about a lead singer dying. That would be nice.
Right? Thank God.
What a nice change of pace.
But until next time, remember, it's a fandom thing. Black Lives Matter, Stop Asian Hate, and Free Palestine.
Doug. Here we have the Limu Emu in its natural habitat, helping people customize their car insurance and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. Fascinating. It's accompanied by his natural ally, Doug.
Limu? Is that guy with the binoculars watching us?
Cut the camera. They see us.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Savings vary. Underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Excludes Massachusetts.
Your sausage McMuffin with egg didn't change. Your receipt did. The sausage McMuffin with egg extra value meal includes a hash brown and a small coffee for just $5. Only at McDonald's for a limited time.
Prices and participation may vary.